If your man can't buy you a Birkin, that is not your man.
And this is how some of our sisters are dating robbers. This is how some of y'all are.
This is your second strike. Next episode, you might not be back. No, some people are looking for a savior.
Yeah.
Some people are looking for a savior. And I think that's a problem.
Have you ever seen 90 Day Fiancé? And it's like, oh, we're going half-half, but your half.
Yeah, I can't afford it.
You're another half away from being homeless. Like, yeah, that's why my face.
Some people are looking for a paycheck in the form of a spouse.
Gosh, yeah. Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Renee.
And I'm Courtney, and we are your online big sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
We are all about the wellness, growth and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And in today's episodes, we are going to be talking about finances within a relationship. Ooh. Yes, from splitting the bill to he must provide for me. Let's talk about how much is too much to ask from your partner, whether the financial burden should still fall on the man. And whilst we all know how important finances are in a relationship, when and how should you be transparent about your finances with your partner? So before we get into today's episode, we are going to be having a ding dilemma. One of the amazing sisters from the sisterhood has sent in a question, and you can do so too by emailing us or DMing us on Instagram or on Twitter at To My Sisterhood. So into today's juicy one.
Yes.
Hey sisters, I wanted to know your opinion on parasocial relationships. Ooh. I watched a really interesting video about Twitch streamers and parasocial relationships. I'll link it below if you want to watch it, and thought that a lot of the subjects could also apply to YouTube or any online platform really. How do you guys draw that boundary between you and your viewers? Have you experienced a parasocial relationship, and is it okay to form attachments to people you watch online?
Ooh, juicy. That's a really interesting that's an interesting question, interesting dilemma.
Indeed.
And I think it's something that's super relevant in today's society, because I think a lot of us have by default parasocial relationships with a lot of the content creators that we watch online, with a lot of the like celebrities and folks whose lives we're invested in, right? Have I ever been in a parasocial relationship before, or have I experienced a parasocial relationship before? Yes. And unfortunately, it actually got a bit toxic.
Okay.
In the sense that, so Courtney, you know me, I like being upfront and personal and close, and I make it my business to like respond to as many people as I can when it comes to like their personal journeys and stuff like that. And there was one person in particular who was like super invested in my journey and super supportive and all that good stuff, and I had no idea who they were from anywhere. And then they sent me a really, really, really long DM, and me being the not fool, the compassionate we're trying to be. me trying to I guess help out a little bit. So foolish. I gave her my number.
Okay.
And it went downhill from there. I mean, they were calling and messaging at all sorts of like times and hours of the night. They were talking about like mental health issues that they were experiencing. And I was like, look, I know you're super invested in my journey and the things that I do, but I am not your support system, and I cannot be your support system. Even if I am a friend to you, or I become a like reciprocal friend to you, I can't be all you that. Can't exactly. And it got to the point where I literally had to like call in reinforcements. I had to be sending her links. I had to be calling all sorts of helplines on her behalf, and then having to part amicably because I couldn't do all of that.
That's a lot to handle.
So that was just like one personal experience of that. And ever since then, like it has taken some time for me to be go back to being like vulnerable and transparent online. But yeah, in terms of like parasocial relationships in general, I think we always have to be careful. I think it was who is the content creator? I really do love her, and you've been talking about her quite.
Adela,
yes. She did a video on the fact that like influencers are not your friends, and rightly so. Influencers are not your friends.
Yeah.
they are a source of inspiration sometimes. They can be friendly. They can be a friendly face, and they can serve as proxy for certain things that you're going through, right? It's always great to see somebody who is, you know, again, vulnerable and transparent about their journey, somebody who is documenting their life or things that they're going through, with the interest of actually helping other people who may be going through the same thing or who need that kind of representation. But where we need to be careful is we need to be careful that we don't become over invested in their life such that we begin to see ourselves as their friend. A lot of folks that you see online, you don't get to see their real life. You get to see a segment or a part of their life. And even though, you know, that part of their life that you're privy to is super personable and relatable and all that good stuff, you're not around them 24/7. You don't have any shared intimate experiences with them offline, and they actually don't know you like that on a level. It sounds so bad, but they actually just don't know you like that on a level. And as much as you may go to like a meet and greet and meet them, or you might speak to them directly at some point, they don't know who you are. So I think we do need to be careful, because we set ourselves up for disappointment when we expect that the folks that we're invested in online should reciprocate that same love in the way that we want it to be delivered to us. So yeah, I think they can be good. I think influencers and content creators, shout out to our, like one of our last episodes where we were talking about toxic influencers and just content creators in general. They serve an important purpose, and they can be a great rallying, community building space for a lot of people. But, and I think that's something that we really emphasize here on TMS, take these conversations, take the inspiration offline to folks in your vicinity. It's not just about reaching out to that influencer or that content creator, but try and make that a reality within your own experiences, your lived experiences. But I've been talking a lot.
Yeah, no, you haven't. That has been that's spot on. I think you have to see, like you're saying, like influencers and stuff can be inspiration, and the people you see, you can be fans of them and you can really love what it is that you see from them. But friendship requires a different level of like proximity, like you said, reciprocity. Like it needs to be two ways. And with parasocial relationships, it's all one way. You're invested in this person. They can't really invest in you. And you may see their time spent creating the content and maybe DMing you back and stuff as them investing time in you. But it's not the same way in terms of their care for you as an individual. They may care for their audience. They probably do care for their audience and their community as a collective. But as you individually, they don't know who you individually are, or even if they're familiar with you, you're not friends. And I think it's important to stay conscious of that, because then you can start to, I guess, ladle on some unnecessary expectations from somebody who doesn't actually want to fulfill that role, and it's got nothing to do with you. It's just the fact that this is them doing a job or them doing a hobby or just creating content because they enjoy it. They're not opening themselves up to be this, not a content creator, to be your therapist or your guidance counselor or your advisor. Like they might not be doing that. Part of the dilemma is about just creating boundaries between you and your viewers. And I think I've been doing content creation now for about 5 years. And sometimes you do have to create that boundary of, you know, I have a life outside of social media in terms of I have other responsibilities. And I think sometimes people, obviously because all they see from you is what you put out there, they think that that's all that it is. And it's like, no, this is content. This is, you know, edited. This is all of that. You only see a fraction of what it is I actually do in real life and the responsibilities and the relationships I have. And so sometimes just remembering they're human beings with their own lives, with their own journeys. And I think there is always a place to open up that conversation about, I actually want to be friends with you. And I actually don't think that's a bad thing. But also then accept that response could be, I can't. I can't. And also sometimes it can just be mad awkward. Like, okay, I want us to be friends. How do we transition into friendship with no history? You have a lot of history with me. My content might have impacted your life. I might have given advice in a video that you implemented that has helped you, which is why you feel like we do have history. But I don't have history with you in terms of your impact on my life, apart from you being a part of the community, which is something that is appreciated, but is not the same. And so I do think that drawing boundaries can be sometimes hard because you're toying with people's expectations of you. And sometimes you'll let people down. You know, there's that saying of don't meet your heroes, right? Like they're going to let you down. And I think unfortunately it's because of the expectations we have, and also partly because of the brands that they create. And so like you said, with TMS, with my own personal brand, just in general, the transparency has always been there of I'm not trying to be, I'm not all that you need. I'm not a guru. I'm not someone you should like rely on solely at all. I can be, you know, a source of entertainment, even advice, but I am not the closest person to you. And if you find that the closest person to you is somebody who is intangible, that's a problem. That is a really big problem. Yeah, that's what I would say about parasocial relationships. But like you mentioned, Adela Afadi has done an amazing video on influencers are not your friends. We're going to link it in the description box. And if you are listening to the podcast on Spotify and Apple or anywhere else, you can just go and search on YouTube for Adela Afadi, and definitely subscribe to Sis as well. She's amazing. She's amazing.
She's so real.
She's exactly. And she's covered all of these bases and stuff. So definitely go and check that out. But I hope that answers kind of, it's not really your dilemma, but it's a really interesting topic to kind of touch on parasocial relationships, especially as social media evolves. Yeah. But that takes us on to today's main episode. Finances within a relationship. So we're going to start off small. We're going to start off just simple, you know, small gist. Oh God. Do you think, okay, who do you think should pay on the first date?
This feels like a Twitter TL.
It is
debate. It is. But don't worry, guys. We'll answer and then we'll move on to it. Okay, so this is I just think it's a very straightforward answer. It very much depends on what you're comfortable with. I mean, in my cultural experience, and from talking to the guys that I know and my dating history, the guy pays first. But
you aren't always like that, though. You were like,
I wasn't.
Yeah, that's what I wasn't.
Like, okay,
fine. You were a split the bill.
Fine. Yeah, no, I hear that. Do you know what though? Okay, so Courtney's really drawing me out here today.
No, because I want to explore, because there's people with different mindsets. There are people who are like, whilst like similar to us, whilst we don't mind splitting the bill, the guy usually pays, right? But then there are other people who are adamant that they will split the bill. Yeah. But I feel like you've been there, so you.
Yeah, so I used to be like adamant, but it was kind of like I didn't mind splitting the bill at all, purely because of the experiences that I had with men, whereby a lot of the men that I had come into contact with in that context felt entitled to something as a result of paying for the bill. So it was kind of like, okay, I covered the bill, so I'm expecting, you know, a little something at the end of the night. And from those experiences, I was just like, well, if I'm splitting the bill, I can go home and I don't want to hear nothing about you want something from me or XYZ. Yeah. So for me, it was very much more of less so a revolutionary thing. Yeah. Although like if you do want to split the bill, that's very much up to you and go for it. Like 100%. Power to you, girl.
100%.
It was more so a response to trauma, really, where I was just like, I don't want to have to deal with unnecessary expectations and unnecessary entitlement to, especially when it came to like physical stuff. Like I don't want to feel like I have to kiss you at the end of the day just because you paid for the bill.
I am not.
What if I don't like you? What if I actually don't like you? And it's like
100%.
I don't want to give that power. So after sitting with it for a while, and also my repertoire of experiences expanded. So I got a lot more male friends, a lot more dating history. And I realized, well, it's nice if a guy pays on the first date. It's really, really nice. And it's also like, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just to me, it's a good impression if you pay on the first date. And it's also like, there's no obligation. Like I have male friends that if I go out with them, they'll pay for the bill. But that's them. They're adamant that it's like any girl up. So it's very much like a personal thing, even though culture, like you'll see on the TL, hella people under pressure. He must pay on the first date or else I'm not going out with him. He's a bum. And it's just like, context matters. But ideally he'd pay.
Yeah, 100%. I think context does matter, but I do think, like you said, no. I think first impressions count, right? I've always been on the reverse. I've always been on the if we go on a date, you're gonna pay.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's never been a by force thing. Like I'm happy to split the bill. I think people assume, oh, you're just seeing me as a free meal. I go out to eat regularly on my own. I can pay for myself for whatever I like. It's not that. It's more of a first impressions thing. But also there are some contexts where I guess it's what you classify as a date. If you're asking me on a date, like it's different. If do you know what I mean? If it's just like we're friends, and we were trying to explore something, but we haven't really asked each other on a date, neither of us, but we're going out, of course we're going to split. Like, because it's not a date.
Yeah.
But if it's like, hey, Renee, I'd like to take you on a date. Or hey, Courtney, I'd like to take you on a date.
You gotta pay.
Please. Yeah. That's what I would expect. Because it's about impressions, right? It's the same way you would expect me to come looking nice. You know, I expect you to come looking nice. I would also, you know, maybe that's traditional, just a way of framing things, just with romance and stuff. But if you didn't, it would, of course, be all around the reason. I've been on dates where we split the bill, where we actually split the bill on the first date. And it worked fine, you know? Next date, he paid though. I'm gonna say that.
I'm screaming. This was like,
you know what's actually let me go into that, because at the date, that was the first time of us meeting each other, and it was clear that it was a date.
Oh, fine, yeah.
So we're having a conversation, and he's like, you know, what do you usually think about finances within relationships? And I was like, I don't expect the man to pay for anything. And so he was like, oh, I mean, sorry, I don't expect the man to pay for anything. I don't expect the man to pay for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, okay, so are we going to split the bill? And I was like, typically on the first date, I don't split bills. Like if I go out to eat on a first date, I do expect the guy to pay. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, what about you? He was like, I had no intention of paying for your meal. I was like, okay. So I paid for my meal, and I was like, but I hope you know that that's my expectations. Yeah. And I think that outlining your expectations is just what matters, and seeing whether both expectations are compatible. Yeah. If you're somebody who's saying, I never pay for anything, don't get with someone who expects you to pay for everything. Yeah. You got to be with someone who's also happy to provide for everything. I think that we always say this, you can't force yourself on anybody. It's about finding people that you are actually organically compatible with. So that's what I would say. I think, like what you said, context actually matters. But this is one of those timeline topics that are kind of inconsequential to things. So let's actually move on to something a bit different with finances and relationships, right? Oftentimes these days you kind of see relationships and their success or their allure being centered around gifts and gift giving. You see it a lot with rappers, you see it a lot with musicians, female and male. Okay,
fraudsters.
I didn't say that. But you see it a lot in the sense of, you know, for example, if your man can't buy you a Birkin, that is not your man. Sweetie. It's how you say it. So I struggled in the last episode. Sweetie. And the city girls, you know, that kind of culture of material gifts and gift giving is a huge part of relationships. And I think to an extent, traditionally, we've seen that in terms of a guy comes to take you on a date. What does he bring? Flowers, small gifts and gestures like that. But do you think that the expectations some women have now towards finances within a relationship, splurging, gifts, all of that, do you think it's realistic? Where do you think it's come from? Do you think it's healthy?
Okay, so this is interesting because before this conversation, I was literally talking to you about like femininity and all that kind of stuff, and the fact that lived experiences don't match up to social media. I would have to answer that question in two. The first part being, in terms of the women that I'm around and my lived experiences, I don't think the expectations are that high. Yes. But in terms of what is projected by women on social media and online and in mass, I think the expectations are ridiculous. I think they're ridiculous. I wouldn't want to be a man.
It's so different.
I wouldn't want to, because why? even taking that example of like, oh, you're not my man if you don't buy me a Birkin. I think people need to understand that like, that's a very specific tax bracket, first of all, that you're not in. You're not in it.
Yeah.
So the expectation that every single man must meet that criteria to be your man, and you don't even live. You don't, you don't
live up to
it. You don't inhabit that tax bracket. What makes you think that you're deserving of a Birkin just because you're a woman?
Hypergamy.
Oh, God. We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll do one at a time. Let's deal with all
the girls want to climb the social ladders.
We'll deal with it one at a time. But yeah, there are certain standards that or certain expectations that we hold men to, but we don't even live up to half of it. So that in that specific instance, like with the Birkin bag, like the average guy is not making enough money to buy a Birkin bag.
The average person
is not making enough to buy a Birkin bag. Let's understand that. And let's also understand that social media puts a spotlight on the like 1%. Or 0.01%.
100%.
So all of these folks that you'll see them on like Twitter where it's like, oh, my boyfriend bought me a house or bought me a car or he bought me XYZ. And that's not to say that you shouldn't like accept it if someone were to
even in my head I was saying that's my portion. I'm not even gonna lie.
Listen, if my babes wants to buy me a house or a car,
you are welcome to,
you're
sir.
very welcome to make that deposit, but it's not my expectation.
It's that's not different.
And I think that we have allowed the expectations or the norms of a very, very minute few to permeate general culture such that it's ruining real life relationships. The expectations are ruining real life relationships because not only do you not live up to it, nobody else will be able to live up to it either. It's unrealistic. And then that now causes resentment and unnecessary tension. And not only that, but us women are peculiar in the sense that if we have this standard for men, why do we now get offended or upset if a man that's able to provide that has standards for us and expectations for us? Because a man that's able to afford a Birkin bag, he will have standards and he will have expectations. Do you meet them? Have you thought about whether you meet them or not?
Yep. And when you make it centered around those things, especially if you're coming across materialistic, or it is by these material possessions that you measure the amount of love in your relationship, you may be taken advantage of. For example, 100%. With the Saweetie thing, just as an example, if you're getting these gifts as a
sorry,
this is to excuse my bad behavior, you've got a problem, because it means that your forgiveness can be bought. If your forgiveness can be bought, that's fine, but let that be the truth, I think the issue is, like you said, a lot of people can't afford these things. And so even if you do bring it down to not even bring it down, you just put it in context for you and your partner. Yes, you may expect your partner to get you some things, but don't expect it to be what you're seeing, like you said, the 0.1% getting, whether that be a designer bag, a car, anything, because at the end of the day, we're still trying to build wealth. We're still trying to leave legacies. Of course, we want to, if gifts is your love language, for example, it's something that you should make explicitly clear. But I think these kind of boil down to, you need to make your expectations known and not see them as a test. Actually allow people to say whether they are willing to live up to those expectations or not. Sometimes it's the less romantic part of the relationship where it's like, I expect XYZ, I'm not just gonna leave you to figure it out on your own, because relationships aren't meant to be done alone. I think actually saying, I like nice things, whether it's in my tax bracket or not, is different. I like nice things. Are you going to provide those nice things? Sometimes that's a conversation you need to have with people. Some people, rightfully so, will look at you and be like, you're crazy. Other people look at you and think, you're worth it, or not even just you're worth it. Yes, I can provide that, and I want to provide that, and I don't feel under pressure to. It's something I actually voluntarily want to do. And that leads me kind of to another point on that. Do you think we put too much, I guess you've alluded to it, but do you think we put too much pressure on men to provide?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I'll start with the no
Yeah.
first. Because ding, 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 patriarchy. I don't think we've mentioned it in a while.
It's been a hot minute still.
It's been a hot minute, hasn't it?
Yeah. By that we mean like 2 episodes though.
Yeah. 2 episodes. But it feels like a while. When we're thinking about the society that we're living in, particularly here in the West, men, it's not just women that are perpetuators of this idea that a man's value comes from how much that he provides. This is something that is within society, but like all genders are like included within that, conglomerate of folks that are trying to see men as providers, right? And you see it amongst men as well. It's not just competition to secure a babe or, to impress a babe, but also men amongst men, who's wearing the shiny shoe, who's got the Gucci belt around their head, who's got, You've seen it. I know you've seen it.
I know. I
know you've seen
an image came with the Gucci belt around your head.
Your head. If that doesn't scream, I'm making money, I don't know what does. Wearing it like on WrestleMania. Anyways. And they hate
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's quite sad.
What is it? The Hermes belt. They'll be wearing it like a whole wrestling champion. Boxing champion. Anyways.
It's not cute, guys. Stop that.
That competition exists outside of romantic relationships too. Yeah. So men are not just under pressure from women to provide materialistic things, but they're also under pressure in society in general, as well as in competition with other men who can have the biggest house or, the Tesla, or make the most money, especially money. Like we see those images of like all those rappers, ring, ring, hello, it's the money bag. You know what I'm saying?
It's the stack of thousands.
It's the stack of thousands. And I think we can't just look at women and say, women, you're expecting too much from us. Yeah. Understanding that this is a structure that you two have very much been a part of creating. So I don't want to hear that, this is like, I've seen it on YouTube, I've seen it on social media where it's like, women, you need to lower your standards or lower your expectations. Well, no, you have to have some very serious internal thoughts as to why you think it's appropriate to wear a Gucci belt around your head and post it online in public.
Wow, you're really on smoke today.
What did the man do?
No, but it's a lot.
Because the easy way in is, let's talk about the women first. Yes. So I was like, no, let me deal with the men first before we start talking about the women, because that provides the context as to why women
expect so much.
They expect so much, and maybe it's gone a bit too far, but those expectations were very much laid in the framework and foundation of our very society. Facts. So let's deal with that first.
Yeah.
Moving on to my good ladies, right? It's a tough one when dealing with like women's expectations, because our expectations are often a result of multiple different things, right? Yeah. And social media and what the community says, the imagined female community online says, is now having a greater slice of the pie in what influences us these days, right? Before it was, what did I see like my mother accept? What did I see people within my like community accept in person? And now we have all of these voices on social media telling us what we should expect from men. It's starting to get a little bit disjointed and disconnected from what we should be expecting in reality. Right. And it's starting to become... And the problem isn't necessarily just about the amount we expect, but the nature of what we expect. These things are now starting to take precedence over, I know it sounds fluffy and annoying, but things like good character. Personality. Like, is it okay to expect a man to provide for you, but what about if he's an abuser?
Facts.
Like, we can't overlook these things.
Facts.
And we're talking about like, okay, cool, we want him to be able to be making lots of money, but are you willing to make the sacrifice of the fact that he's not going to be around you all the time?
This is it. Yeah, this isn't like build a man workshop either. Maybe your Mr. Right will come along. Your Prince Charming will come along, who's perfect and everywhere. But that's a very Disney, like that's a huge Disney complex. Yeah. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to find somebody who you're going to have to work with, in whether it's not the money aspect, it's the character. If it's not the character, it might be the money. Whatever it is, there's always going to be something that causes you to develop as a person. You have to give room for that.
100%. This whole... I love that you said Disney complex, because that's just not the world that we live in. Facts. It's not the world that we live in. And being able to give people... And it's a fine line between having expectations and settling, right? Because folks will say that if I don't have expectations, then I'm going to settle.
Yeah.
We're not saying that you should settle.
Yeah.
We're just saying that you need to be realistic in your expectations. And you need to understand what exactly is influencing your expectations.
Yeah.
What are you giving weight, and also why?
Yeah.
Because somebody that is, you know, a high earner, or somebody that's trying to like keep their wealth in the family or stuff like that, might have a very legitimate reason as to why they expect the person they date to be able to provide certain things.
Yeah.
If the reason why you expect a man to buy you a Birkin bag is because you heard it in a song lyric,
it's not a good reason. That is not a good reason.
Because when you're even in the dating phase and someone asks you, what is your expectation? And you say it, and then they say why, and that's what you say.
Yeah. Yeah. Your relationships exist independent of popular culture. Okay. They really do. Like, Saweetie is not going to come and pamper you when your heart is broken.
This is it.
You know, Quavo, or in fact, Future is not going to be there gassing you up when you broke your girl's heart. Like, that's not how it works. You've actually got to realize there's that, and then there's what you're in, which is reality, right? Which is your present reality.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not to say I have anything against these people at all. They're doing their own journeys. They're walking out their situations as well, and they're figuring it out. It's when you take that as blueprint for your life, that's a problem. Like, that's a massive problem. I think, like you said, there is a difference between having these expectations which are rooted in comparison, rooted in competition, rooted in just social media, glamour, goals, all of that, and having a standard that matches your trajectory and your life and where you see it going, which is where I guess hypergamy comes into play. If you're somebody who sees you want better for your family, you want better for your life, and you've been able to push it so far, but in order to get further to where you're trying to go, you need someone who's a bit more up there. Shoot your shot. Why not? Who are we to tell you lower your standards, sis? If that makes sense. But for most people, their standards should be based off of compatibility, that person's interests and your interests, and also your future plans and their future plans. That's what your standards should be based off of. And I think that that's where a lot of people kind of get it messed up, because all of these, the nice things, apart from those people, like I said, who like gifts really matter to them. Like if you don't give them a gift, they're upset, right? Apart from those people, for most people, these are just the cherries on top. These don't really mean much. You getting me a bag doesn't really mean, like you said, you actually love me or that you care for me. Those things are reflected in deeper stuff, like the way you treat me, the way you communicate with me, the way you are when I'm not around. All of these things actually speak way louder than you buying me a nice gift. But then what about if we decenter it from gifts? And I love what you're saying about, you know, hypermasculinity and the way masculinity has been constructed, because a lot of it is based off of the provider dynamic, which I mean, it's not just reserved to Western societies. I think it's everywhere, child. Like that dynamic of men provide and women maybe make the home, or they do whatever. That is the dynamic that most of us are akin to, and we know. But what if we take away the materialistic aspect of things and we start to think about provision, right? So to be honest, I feel like this is another TL topic in itself, but in the sense of when it comes to provision realistically now, in the world that we're living in the 21st century, women are educated, can work, all of this stuff. What does provision look like for the 21st century boss babe girl? Boss babe girl.
Okay. In all honesty, I'm in two minds about this. Because on the one hand, if you're the kind of person that wants to be doing up 50-50, and you know, when we come to things like, you know, splitting rent or splitting groceries and all that kind of good stuff, that's cool. But I think we also need to understand that there are certain factors or life experiences or changes that we're going to experience where 50-50 will look different. So we assume that, like, for example, somebody posed to the question to one of like my group chats, was like, if you're, pregnant, you can no longer work for a period of time, or you can choose to not work for a period of time, and your husband or your partner bears the like financial burden of you whilst you're in this, season. Is that cool? Or would you prefer to continue doing this like 50-50 thing financially? For me, the resounding answer is no. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just...
How's that even going to work?
It's like, you want me to be pregnant, 8 months pregnant, out here with your child, yeah, working. So in the name of 50-50, egalitarian, not in my household. So I think in terms of what does 50-50 look like, sometimes I think we as women take it, at least personally for me, take it a bit too far in that we must be equal at all times in a very, very specific way. And that's always finances. No matter the circumstances, no matter the conditions, we must always be 50-50 and provision should come from both sides. And I think the problem with that is it doesn't allow for those different contextual factors or changes. That means that it's actually more viable for the guy to be paying more rent, for example, or for the guy to be, providing more.
And sometimes it's the reverse.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Sometimes it's the reverse, right? Sometimes there may be some circumstances where your man is actually not able to work as much if he like loses his job for a season, or if he is under the weather, if he's ill. Are you not going to be the financial provider, or are you going to force this man to
go and find work?
This man is looking at you. He can't see. He has a rheumatism. His leg is broken, and you're telling this man that he's useless and he needs to go and find work.
But what if he's not in between jobs, as in he can't get another job? What if he's doing a career change?
That's also
that you might not agree with.
Oh dear.
Like we always say this stupid example. What would you do if you're like 40 and your husband's like, babe, I want to become a rapper? Hold it down whilst I make it happen. It's always been a dream.
Whilst he's there in the the studio, and he's there, and the thing is, his bars are bad as well.
So
his bars are bad.
So sorry.
You see, this is why. Listen, you guys, when it comes to dating, there's certain things you need to ask.
Real life. Have you ever? Do you think you'll ever desire to drop an EP? Yeah. Talk to me about that.
Is there any point, whether it's in your early life or around like the middle period, where you will feel the urge to jump on SoundCloud? Please let me know in advance.
But also, how feasible is your success? I feel like that's the bigger question. It's fine for a guy to pursue his passion. Of course, it's fine for anyone to pursue their passion. What's the feasibility of success in relation to your responsibilities? And I think that's why it becomes a bit difficult, because it's like, okay, you want to follow your passions, but we've got kids and we've got a mortgage. We have several mortgages, or there's stuff we have to do. We have responsibilities.
And you see, the thing is, I think that when it comes to like dating and relationships and stuff like that, this is why it's really important to not just see yourselves as like man and woman or whoever and whoever, but actually as friends and as partners. Friends and partners. Because thinking, oh, this is the man and he's my man and all of that kind of stuff, when it comes to discussions like this, sometimes you have to level with him as a friend and say, bro, it's not going to work out. No, bro, I love you.
It's true.
But this is not going to work out.
True.
You need to talk to him like a homeboy, because in that whole like, oh babe, like I don't think it's going to work out. Sometimes you have to say, bro, I'm speaking to you on a level. This is not going to work. And I think because we're so trapped, and we mentioned this in one of our other episodes, right? You are not going out with the world. You're not going out with the construct of a man. You're going out with an individual. And that's why it's super important to establish an individual relationship, individual connection, such that when these turbulent times come, you're able to construct a framework as to what your 50-50 will look like.
100%. Especially because we're living in a time where to say you're going to rely on one person's income solely is quite unrealistic. I do also think, exactly like you said, it is definitely on an individual basis. What are we both comfortable with? What do these seasons look like? How are we planning ahead for them? If it is a case of we're splitting things 50-50, like in that scenario, if I am pregnant, is it a case of we have like I have a money pot there that's like, this is my contributions for when I'm pregnant and I'm not working, at least I can still give? Or is it that I must be provide? It's not just because I want to and I'm a woman. Hey, it's actually, I need to, like, my income is actually really important for our family to be sustained. All of these things come down to individuality. And I think that's one of the main emphasis of this episode. You can see so much of the TL topics. You can see so much of Twitter's talking this, and men should do that.
At least every 3 months.
It's redundant.
Every 3 months.
You can see all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, you're not living for the internet. And the internet shouldn't govern your life either. Think for yourself and think in relation to, exactly like you said, this partnership that you're in, you're with an individual, you're with a unique person, and you too are a unique person. Right. What's your circumstance? You might do something financially which I don't agree with. I might do something which you don't agree with. At the end of the day, we're both minding our business and watering our grass and living our own lives because it works for us. If it works for you, that's fine. Where it comes into question is when it's dysfunctional.
Yeah.
When it's dysfunctional, the sisters have to hold you accountable.
Oh, and best believe we will.
Best believe it. So then I guess that leads us to kind of this other part of this conversation.
Yeah.
Would you... would you say it is important in a relationship to be financially transparent?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
I think that, listen, finances, I've seen it before personally, many relationships broken down because of not just finances, but communication about finances.
Facts.
Absolutely break down. Finances is, I'm sure that's one of the leading reasons for divorce and stuff like that. You need to be transparent about your finances, as transparent as possible. I have made it, listen, that's actually one of my number one rules when it comes to dating. Right. I'm just like, I need to know where you're at. And this is not for me to judge you, but to judge where we can go.
Facts.
And this is not me like, I want you to be making 100 racks a year or anything like that. Sure, aspire to that. That's nice. Yeah. But I just need to know where you're at, where you want to go. Yeah. How large is the distance between those two places, and where can we meet in the middle?
This is it.
Because even this whole question about, like, you know, paying on the first date and, you know, questions around like being a provider. How feasible are these things? And how comfortable are you having conversations about these things? Because again, as much as, you know, relationships and marriages and stuff like that is about love, this is also a business. Facts. This is a business transaction. Yeah. And if we decide to take this further, understand that there are financial implications when we come together. This is it. If we want to hang out, financial implications. Listen, we live in London, right? You step out of London, your toe is out. You've already spent £10.
Woo, where did that go? Woo, £20.
You've already spent. Literally. And you expect this man to be whining and dining you and all of that kind of stuff. You don't even know if it's feasible. Yeah. And this is how some of our sisters are dating robbers. This is how some of y'all are.
This is your second dating. Strike. Next episode, you might not be back.
Free Renee, y'all. She's in jail. Free Renee.
No, but it's the truth.
This is how sisters will be dating people who are actually breaking the law because they are exhibiting all the signs, the classic signs of being a man and being a provider and stuff like that. Have you asked him what the source of his income is? And if he says, don't worry about it, babe, best believe you should be worrying. You need to worry. You should be. I was about to say, we don't even need to link it below. You know the number. You know the number. You know.
It's not going to be linked below.
No, because I was literally watching I can't remember what show it was, but I was watching an episode, a series rather, that was talking about fraud. And that was when, I think I mentioned this to you earlier, when it was talking about like what's the meaning of dropping squares and stuff like that. Yeah. I wasn't hip with the kids then. Yeah. Right? And a good sis was on that show saying, oh, you know, I didn't know that he was doing all this fraud. He was treating me so nice, taking me to cocktails and all that kind of stuff every week. And then one day, you know, he asked for my cards and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden my card got locked and I found myself at the police station and he had stolen all my money. This is what happens when you're not transparent. Tell me where your money is coming from. And this is not to say that you should rock up on the first date and be like, what's your credit score?
Facts.
Have you ever had a CCJ?
Facts.
Have you ever broken the law to obtain money?
Are the bailiffs after you?
Are the bailiffs?
We need to know.
We need to know, right?
need to know.
And it's not necessarily the first date that you might ask this.
Yeah.
Or in some, some cases.
But I feel like that's when you're older though, and
that's true.
like,
You
or
don't have
not
time
even
to
just
waste.
when you're like not even just when you're older, but both of you on the same page. We want this to be something.
100%. 100%. And I've definitely been in situations where it's just like, listen, I have questions for you.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to find myself in a problematic situation. And also start how you intend to finish. And a lot of us are just not starting well.
It's very true.
Look at in Girlfriends, that episode where Tony found out that Todd was in debt after they were married. After.
See, it's very tough. It's very tough. I think what comes to mind for me is two things. Financial compatibility.
Yeah.
The reason why we need to ask these questions is I have plans for my life.
Yeah.
You have plans for your life. We may have now gotten into a relationship because those goals line up. The question is, how are we then going to get there? Now we've agreed on the destination. How are we getting there?
Yeah.
If there is going to be anything that hinders us or could even propel us closer, we both need to know, because there needs to be full transparency if we're going to go together. The issue, I think, especially in that unfortunate kind of scenario, example you gave about the girl who her boyfriend deetsed her or like frauded her, transparency cannot be one-sided. And a lot of times you see a lot of abuse happen, whether even just mentally, emotionally, because one person knows everything about the other and the other knows barely anything about them. And finances is one thing that is so easy to keep secret. It's because it's all very personal. I can't access your bank account without you knowing. You can't access mine without me knowing. It's
100.
something that you have to consciously and with effort decide to share with people. The system's even built that way because it's all about privacy. But in relationships, you really do have to know how much privacy are we going to give each other? How much do we agree to give each other? And how much is actually beneficial? Because when it comes down to building a household together, building a legacy together, our understanding may be that we're doing this in partnership. If we decide that no, we're doing these things separately and all that we share is intimacy, that's fine. But let that be clear. I think what's unfortunate and where a lot of women get the brunt of it is men take charge of the finance. Yeah. She's in charge of her personal finances, but he's in charge of everything. And it's like, wait, I should also have equal knowledge of what you're making, what you're spending, what you're putting your money towards.
Run me that spreadsheet.
I need to know where your expenses are going.
Run me that spreadsheet.
Even before you met me, because like you said, even with the Tony and Todd example from Girlfriends, this could affect my future.
Exactly.
This could affect our kids' future. I need to know what I can do to help you or whether I should be with you. And unfortunately, a lot of people see that standard as too much, you're overstepping. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's true at all, because when we go and we decide to buy a house together, they're going to be looking at both of our individual credit score. If we get there and we've been doing la-di-da the whole way, and then I find out your credit score is 1, that's gonna lead to a whole bunch of disappointment, right? It's gonna lead to a lot of disappointment, possibly resentment. But now I was going to say stuck, but now I have to be here whilst you build up your credit score, something that I was not expecting. Fine, I can stay, and that's what they call, the ride or dies, and she was with me when I was
long
down.
Suffering.
LOL. She was, and to be honest, sometimes you need to do that. Yeah. And sometimes it's the reverse. I hear a lot of guys talk about they're with a girl, she's in hella debt. And she doesn't know what to do about it. And now they've got to stick around and help her.
No wonder her expectations were so high.
She said,
she was trying to get out of debt.
I need somebody to pay these bills.
Did somebody say hypergamy?
Hypergamy. No, some people are looking for a savior. Yeah. Some people are looking for a savior. And I think that's a problem.
Have you ever seen 90 Day Fiancé?
No. Oh, no, I have seen the clips on YouTube.
That's why my face.
Some people are looking for a paycheck in the form of a spouse.
Gosh,
That is problematic, and I would just cause you to question your morals. That's all I can say. But each to their own. It is your business. But yeah, I think that, like you said, there is a massive need to be transparent about finances. But how? You said like in the dating phase that you sometimes ask these questions, right? So practically, what does it look like asking somebody about their financial history? But also, what does financial transparency look like in a romantic relationship?
Okay, cool. So first we'll deal with like how to actually ask folks about their finances. The way that you do that is lead by example. So it's less intrusive when you start talking about your finances and creating the space yourself such that the person will feel empowered to talk about it too, rather than you coming at them with the whole like, what's your credit score? You can say something like, oh, like, just my finances, dude. Like if they ask you what you're doing, my favorite was like, oh, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm just handling my finances, talking to my accountant, currently working on some like credit building stuff. Oh, my credit score is like, what's your, like there's ways you can do it.
Just lead into it,
ease into it, and lead by example. So if you want somebody to be transparent about their finances in the dating phase, you need to be willing to lay bare, and that means having conversations about, some financial mistakes you may have made. It means talking about, what are the things that you want to do in future. If you are thinking about, investing, or if you do have investments, obviously you don't have to tell them everything. Yeah. Like you can't be saying, so I have, XYZ investments in XYZ. Yeah. Because that's how people take advantage of you in that phase.
Very early on.
So you want to be mindful and create environments that make it easier and conducive to have those kind of conversations. And it doesn't have to be over one date. It can be you've been dating this person for a while. Every now and again, have conversations about money, or watch things, or send them things and ask their opinion on it. What do you think about this? It's all about that organic relationship building, like it's almost in the same way that you do with a friend. Like if I was the time that I was looking for a new credit card, I asked Courtney, I was like, yo, what's good with your finances? And she answered. Creating that culture very, very early on sets the tone up for a like great foundation for your relationship. And then when you do get into the relationship, in terms of financial transparency, it means actually I'm super, super practical. So I like to do like quarterly reviews, like relationship reviews, and sometimes I do this with friends as well, where it's kind of like not just finances but also just general feedback,
quality of relationship,
to how are things going, how do you feel, what are things that we could improve on, all of that kind of good stuff. Insert finances into there as well. Like do your financial reviews with your partner. Talk to them about some of your financial goals, and maybe if you do have a joint goal together, you can hold each other accountable to that. And get into the culture. Like for me personally, if we're in a like long-term relationship, there will come a point where we do things joint anyway. So you might be thinking about opening a joint account, or you might be thinking about splitting things a lot more like evenly. When it gets to that point, then you want to make sure the process is as clean as possible, making sure that you have an idea of like, if we're doing 50-50, what percentage of how much you're making is that going to be? 50. Because sometimes 50-50, what looks like 50-50 is actually not feasible.
It's somebody's 70%.
And it's like, oh, we're going half-half, but your half.
I can't afford
You're another half away from being homeless. Like, if we split the next bill, if we split the next bill
this week.
If we split the next bill, you're gonna be homeless.
And that's why transparency is so important, and put egos aside. You have to be so real about, I cannot afford this. Like, I know you can, but I might not be able to. Fine. And make it okay.
And it's comfortable. In the same way that, like, even amongst our friends, when we're going through rough patches, we'll be like, yo, we're not going out.
No,
we can't do this
because
I can't afford that right now. And there's no shame in it. I think there's so much stigma attached to budgeting in relationships. It's always, oh, you need to be lavish, and if you love me, you will spend your life savings on me in this instance. If you love me, you will keep those life savings, because we got a long life ahead of us and we need the money.
Say it again. If you love me, you'll be responsible. Just be responsible.
Exactly.
Whatever that looks like, be responsible.
And you really, really must interrogate their financial habits as well.
I was gonna say this.
Interrogate, because it's nice that they're buying you all of these things, but all the time, do you have a problem?
Gonna say exactly.
Do you have a spending problem?
Exactly. Oh, I love that. I love what you said. I think the highlight is, like you said, transparency is based on trust. Yeah. So don't feel the need to like convey all of this stuff with somebody you don't trust. If you trust the person, cool. If you know you're journeying together, they're gonna be cool with it. You're in a safe environment, then calm. Yeah. Spending behaviors really matter. They really matter. And this is not just in the context of what do you buy me? How do you spend your own money? How are you managing your personal finances? And a lot of that doesn't even need to be communicated. It just shows through your behavior, right? If we go out, or if I see you constantly buying stuff, you're constantly buying new garms, you're constantly buying new clothes, new shoes, you're constantly, and this goes for men and women, because sometimes we don't, because this framework of men are the providers, sometimes it may be changing now, we don't necessarily spend with future in mind. Yeah, it might be short-term future, and like maybe I'm saving towards a specific goal, but we just spend knowing that someone else has got the other stuff, you know? Yeah, you can't do that anymore. I think paying attention to, are you overspending? Because I know how much you make, or, you know, I know what your job role is. So I know kind of the vicinity. It's not that I'm counting your coins, but I just know you're not a millionaire, maybe. The way you're spending is definitely out of your budget. It shows me that you're not really that responsible. You're irresponsible.
You're spending like a drug dealer.
Your spending habits are too much for me to... I need to call you up on it. You know, if I'm in a position where I can call you up on it, I'll call you up on it. Because
this is not a Narcos episode.
I'm screaming. No, but it's true. You're spending like you got drug money. That ain't this ain't that.
James St. Patrick where?
Oh, James St. Patrick.
Where?
He had investment.
Stop.
He had investment. No, but on a real, like if I see that your spending patterns and your behaviors don't match up with the goals which you have expressed to me, not what I'm projecting onto you, because you might not have goals, then we're not financially compatible. We're not compatible. Right? And I shouldn't project onto you what I would do with my money. Yeah. I should watch what you do with your money. But if you've expressed to me, these are my goals, you're giving me, because we're in a relationship, because we have intimacy, you're giving me the room to hold you accountable. And I will hold you accountable to the fact that you're not spending in line with your goals. Yeah. It's the same thing that I do it with Renee. She may think I'm overstepping, but I'm your friend. I'm going to hold you accountable. If you're telling me I want to buy a house, don't buy this stuff, you know, save. I think having that reminder there that we need to set ourselves an expectation to be financially compatible and romantically compatible. Like I was saying with love, like with relationships, we always think, do I find them attractive? You know, do we have the same goals? Are we financially compatible in terms of our mindset around money? Is he a saver? Am I a spender? Some people are actually, what do they call it? Frugal, like to the max. Like that hyper frugality may not be something that you want.
I didn't even need to tell you a story. I think
what?
You're not gonna like this
What
one.
is it?
I can't remember what it was called. I think it was like Extreme Savers or something like that.
That show.
No.
These people will wash their plate. How can you wash your plate, wash your clothes, and bath in the same water?
No, you know what? It's the bath
and then boil your food in it. Is it a trauma? Is it a trauma?
It was, for me, it was the sharing.
It has
of
to
the
be trauma.
Water. I had to click off. No, I had to click off. Because that's social services type situation.
There was this woman. Okay, so there's such a range of people on these shows.
Oh my gosh.
People who don't buy food, they'll take food from the bins. I'm so sorry. I'm laughing, but they do create these shows for entertainment, so I've got to laugh. Did you see the video of that woman who makes her lasagna in the dishwasher? There are people who they don't buy toilet paper because there's frugal, as in we use coupons. Yeah, like there's frugality. Like I use coupons. I use everything till it's finished. That's good. That's resourcefulness.
Yeah.
Then there are. We
That's
need to
punishment.
go to betterhelp.com to my sisters. We need to figure this one out. She didn't buy toilet paper. They just cut up newspapers as if it's 1938.
No, but there was also one lady who said that every time she goes to the bathroom, she uses one square. One square of toilet paper. Not just one square.
Your fingers smell. Your hands smell. You smell. You smell. Does she bath every time? I guess not, because that's anti-frugality. So you smell. Tell me your first thought is not does she smell? Call me today, please, because do you know how thin one
is the fact that it was one ply that I said no, we have to click off this.
Like for number one and number two.
Do you know how
she smells? It's okay.
Do you know how thin one ply of toilet paper is?
That's actually sad, you know. Sorry, that's so funny.
Oh my gosh.
That is actually so funny.
Basically, observe behaviors and
please. Because there are some people who are extremely frugal. You might not be able to live with that. You know, if you're let me actually not. It's very filthy sometimes. But like, if that's something you can't live with, don't get the giggles now. If that is something you cannot live with, you need to make that explicitly clear. That means that financially we are not compatible, right? If that person is a lavish spender, as in like they spend like tomorrow is not coming,
as in
that's another issue, you know, if you're not comfortable with that. So it comes down to, are we financially compatible? Do I trust you enough to be transparent? And what is your spending behavior like outside of the context of this romantic relationship? We're not just talking about you buying me gifts. We're talking about how much you spend on yourself. How much do you give? How much do you save? All of these things. What is your credit score? Do you give towards retirement? Do you have investments? All of these things. Do you have a pot where you're saving for a house? Are these things even important to you? Do you have life insurance? Okay, like let's figure this out. Let's figure it out according to your goals. I'm not going to project anything onto you because I'm just trying to make sure we are compatible. I'm not trying to shape you into what I need. You are your own person. What do you want out of life? Yeah, that's what beautiful. I'd say. Wow, we've defo had a good chin wag. That was serious. But is it extreme? Yeah, I think it is extreme savers, something like that.
Oh, no, man. Because I think most, like, the likely thing is, you want to find somebody that's good with money, and people think that means that, they're good investors or good savers, but there's people that take it too far.
Some people are good with money, child, but they smell. And they're hungry.
By choice,
you know?
No.
Figure out that bondage. Anyways, wow. What an episode.
Episode.
I guess this is more so the beginning of a conversation.
Yeah.
Because we want to hear what you have to say about...
That was excellent. Hold on a second. Wait a moment.
You can hire me for your talk shows. Yeah.
That was an excellent... I'm going to let you finish. That was good. No, man. Run that again. Run that track again. That was good. That was really good. I enjoyed that. I thoroughly... I'm sure you guys listening thoroughly enjoyed that. Wow, you're really
gassing me. Oh
no,
my God.
Man. I was thinking the beginning of a conversation.
Yeah. You already know where we're at. It's the outro, baby.
Okay. Take us home, Miss Courtney. Take us there.
Okay. This is just the beginning of the conversation. We want to hear what you have to say. And if you're on YouTube, you can comment down below.
Absolutely.
Let us know what you think about finances within a relationship. Expectations versus standards, transparency, full disclosure, whatever it may be. Let us know your thoughts down below. And if you want to talk to us more, you can join the sisterhood. Come over, talk to us over on Instagram and on Twitter at to my sisterhood. I genuinely do feel like
this is gonna be a good.
This is gonna be a good conversation down in the comment section. If you're listening on Spotify and Apple, just run over to YouTube or on Instagram and just hear what the girls have to say.
Absolutely, and please comment your experiences too. We too. We would love to chuckle.
There's so much we could talk about, man. Some of us have been taken for idiots, but it's all right. It's okay. We live, we learn, we grow, we glow.
Oh, another one. We're not going to end this episode today.
Sorry guys, we're really on fire here.
Okay, no. In all seriousness, you know the drill. Come say hi to us personally on our pages at CD Boateng, at Renee Kapuku. And of course, if you're not there already, where you been? How many episodes in now?
Come on, sis.
We're only going to grow more and more. So you might as well head over to tomysisters.com to join the mailing list and get all of our exclusive bits and pieces. We'll see you in another episode. And remember, don't let anybody take you for an idiot. No.
That's a good way to end.
Cut it there. Keep glowing and growing.